Hello everyone! If the title didn't give it away, we are starting on a new venture here on the channel, something called Creature Feature, where I'm using preset guidelines made in Pathfinder 2e to create my own monsters. Now, I could make this a player character, but there are some things that player characters can do that monsters can't, and vice versa. So I figured the Wendigo, the enemy in the little game called Until Dawn, a recent obsession of mine since I got the new PlayStation subscription, has been hot on my mind for the last minute. Wouldn't it be fun to fight a Wendigo in Pathfinder 2e? There is a Wendigo, super high level. We're not looking for a monster like that. We're looking for something akin to something in the game. So using a preset guideline and rule set, I'm going to be building this creature in Pathfinder 2e. So, let's get started. So this begs the question, how do we roll up a Wendigo? Well, we need a scary creature, one that can both shout and mimic our quarry. We need to be able to sneak around and dart around like a feral feline. Lastly, we need thick skin, like even shotguns do jack thick skin. For our creature level, I'll call the protagonist Until Dawn level 1 at best, when they're left to be dealing with the Wendigos. Wendigos are powerful to super unprepared and pee pants scared high school bullies. So I'll be rolling up the Wendigos at level 5. I think this is a reasonable level for a build. By themselves against seasoned adventurers, I feel like a Wendigo will get folded fairly easily. Very obvious tells, very specific weakness. I feel like a seasoned adventurer will be able to take these guys down no problem. The hunter was able to kill their Strongs with a flamethrower and has several decades of hunting its kin. These things can be murked pretty easily. Their danger comes from a lack of knowledge and the surprising speed they have. So that's my logic here. Since Wendigos are not to be trifled with, expect this to land on the higher end of a level 5 rather than a median level 5. Alignment wise, there are definitely worse chaotic evil and at most neutral evil. I don't believe there's any pattern to their damage, just whoever and whatever they can come across and kill. You know, like deer, wolves, girlfriends, and their horny boyfriends, you know, typical horror movie cliches. As far as their size goes, they're lanky and quick, they're tall, gaunt, and withered, measuring at 7.5 to 8 feet tall. I'd call them medium creatures, they're only a little bit bigger than an orc. As far as traits go, beasts have low intelligence score but are capable of understanding speech like some Wendigos are able to do. Aberrations because it feels right, you know, they're corruptions against the natural order, they really shouldn't exist, all things considering. As far as our main 6 ability modifiers, I'll put 6 into strength, 6 in dexterity, 4 into constitution, -3 into intelligence, +2 to wisdom, and +5 to charisma. The big 6 and 4 are for our big beefy physical stats because, you know, Wendigos are very beefy despite, you know, the lack of beef. -3 because beast intelligence, of course. +2 wisdom because they have some minor survival skills that keep them alive out there, and high charisma so they can be very scary. When we do see them in perspective of the Wendigos, they are often shown like a predator vision, kind of like a heat sense, but we actually see them as responding to movement, kind of like a T-Rex would, like in Jurassic Park. So I would give them a tremor sense for up to 60 feet, but imprecise everything else, scent, vision, what have you. With their wisdom score being low, this should be awful when trying to do checks. For imprecise senses, you can usually sense a creature automatically with imprecise sense, but it's hidden instead of observed in this condition. It might be undetected to you if it's using stealth or is in an environment that distorts senses, kind of like a noisy room in the case of hearing. In those cases, you have to use the seek basic action to detect the creature. On the flip side, if you're playing as a player in this environment, here's how it works. You become hidden when using stealth to hide. When seeking a creature using only imprecise senses, it remains hidden rather than observed. A creature you've hidden from is flat-footed to you and must succeed a DC 11 flat check when targeting you with an attack, spell, or any other effects that can affect you. Area effects are not subject to this flat check, so throwing a Molotov or grenade is not going to be an issue here. Honestly, this is the best way to imperfectly implement a hide-and-seek mechanic to this kind of creature. Languages, there are none. No languages, because they're not exactly the best conversationalists, and the only reason they talk is to hunt their prey, which we'll get to later. As far as skills go, Wendigos have very high highs and very low lows, so athletics, stealth, and deception put them at the very high highs at a +16. Appropriate for an extreme level 5 creature. Nature, survival, and deception put them at +12s, still moderately high, but enough to kind of keep them alive out there in the wilds, but seek is going to be at a +8. At this level, their lowest perception can be an 8 for a level 5, making the range of their senses be a 9 to a +28. For a level 1 character, trained in stealth, a 14 dexterity for the middle row stat leaves us with a +3, +2 for a 5. For a low of a 6 and a high of a 25 on a single d20 roll. I think this is reasonable as the players have to constantly beat the monster's perception, and the creature has a slight edge, but it has to be expected. A beast is focused entirely on killing your party and making them hide. To reiterate, we're not trying to kill the Wendigos out and out at the specific level. We are trying to hide and seek from them. We can start killing them when we start talking about immunities and weaknesses pretty soon. Again, this is for hide and seek, level 5 against level 1s. You want to kill them, throw them at level 5, throw a couple Wendigos. Again, Alien the movie versus Aliens the movie. One is super powerful, one is a bunch of annoying monsters. Any special items for the Wendigos are unnecessary because they're bare-skinned monsters. They don't have any items. At most, I probably include stuff like lore, maybe like textbooks or notes or anything pertaining to their origin to help the party along. You know? Things like that would be very helpful to find on Wendigos. For AC, the level being a simple level 5, the lowest recommended is 19 to a high of 25. The player characters sticking to level 1 have at least a +3 to their attack rolls. So a 19 AC is still high, with 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20 or 25% chance of hitting it. Honestly, I think it fits the theme. These beasts are supposed to be hard to hit and harder to kill. With a level 5 adventuring party with an optimized fighter with an 18 strength, they're fighting with a swing of +13 with a 70% chance of hitting. This becomes more trivial, but allows to follow again the alien rule of enemy difficulty for the first time. They're very strong and hard to kill. Second time, they're a horde of annoying but still very dangerous monsters. For saving throws, put fortitude at +17 due to their thick skin and very tough bodies. Will saves and reflexes will go to +7. That's the lowest they can be at level 5. Will, because they're not very perceptive, and reflex, they are not really good at dodging shotguns, flamethrowers, or fire. Cone attacks or AoEs are not their forte, ironically considering they're so fast. Hit point wise, 91 to 97 is the max at this level, and I imagine the AC and resistances that are coming up are going to be putting up the bulk protection. There's a lack of healing spells or regeneration from what we can see from the game, so I'm not going to include that in this build. Immunity, weaknesses, and resistances. At level 5, we're going for the max 8 resistance to all forms of damage except for fire. With fire, it's going to have a weakness of 4, and in turn, I'll have them lose their resistances, as it burns with their tough armor like hide. As said by the hunter, it's going to open them up for a more secure kill. And we see later in the game when Sam home runs one Wendigo's head like a baseball. I'll give it a weakness trigger as seen in the game. When hit with a fire-based weapon, it'll have weakness equal to its max resistance for half the damage it received for an even number of rounds in which half the damage is received, and an equal number of rounds if the fire damage is persistent. It sounds like a lot, but I'm going to break it down in math-wise so it makes more sense. So, let's have a player throw a Molotov cocktail or a lesser alchemist fire bottle, dealing 1d8 plus 1 persistent fire damage. So on a mid throw of 4 damage, so it's going to be a 4 damage throw, plus 4 weakness, plus 1 persistent fire damage, and on a hit, that's 8 damage. So now it'll be 4 rounds, plus 1 additional round as long as it's on fire, making it easier to kill when set ablaze. It'll reward exploring and learning more about the monsters, turning a slugfest into a quick turn just by doing some research. For speed, Wendigos are fast, superhumanly fast, so I'm going to give them a speed of 40. With 120 speed per round, feels appropriate for a speedster beast like this. A human monk with fleet is running at 40 speed by level 3. They of course get the climbing speed equal to their land speed since they primarily live in the caves. And a swim speed, I give it like a 10. They're not exactly graceful swimmers, but I think they, swim enough considering Hannah's first scene, or properly seen in water. For strikes, they're all about that slashing damage. We're going to go for a +11 to hits, because once again, we're trying to basically kill commoners here. And their strikes are going to do 2d6 plus 6 moderate damage. They also have those big meaty fangs we're going to throw on them for 1d8. Not as bad as the claws, but definitely dangerous in their own right. They'll have a reach trait as well as a fatal d8. Those long arms of theirs will give them attack range of +10, so 10 feet. And for a damage of low 8 and a high of 18. On a critical hit, those are going to change to 2d8s, and it doubles to add an additional d8 on top of that. Considering the max AC of a player character, especially an Until Dawn player, it's going to be like at max 13. If trained in light armor, which I'll count their winter clothes as, it's a death sentence to be hit by one of these things. Again, the players are trying to hide and avoid fighting these things if possible. At level 5, an adventuring party has access to spells, high damaging weapons, and generally know the weaknesses of these guys. While still dangerous, I wouldn't call them quite as deadly as an encounter. An example of a level 5 character, trained in armor, has an AC of 2 plus 5 plus 10. With a middle row dex of say 2, that's 19 AC. So unless a Wendigo rolls an 18, 19, or 20, since that's going to be the critical hit range for these type of monsters, they'll only be hitting the players 35% of the time normally. For reference, a Barbazu with a glaive is swinging at a +15 at this level. So, not as bad. Now we're going to talk about spells, and the only spell I think that's appropriate would be Resurrect, with some interesting twists for narrative purposes. The range of this is going to be 50 miles wide, which sounds stupid until I say the limitation of it being the same range of the curse being cast upon the original Wendigo. Since Wendigos are primarily mountain-dwelling vengeful monsters in this game, this should keep them within the range of the mountains. Again, a 50-mile mountain range is actually pretty common. We have them all over California and Nevada. The cost of it's going to be interesting, because the cost of casting the spell is going to be when someone consumes the flesh of their similar ancestry. So, humans eating humans, orcs eating orcs, elf eating elf, then your spirit is set to spawn within 2d6 days. Now we need some abilities, and we need a scary, seat-grabbing, terrifying howl. So you can attempt intimidation checks to demoralize each enemy within 30 feet. Regardless of the results of your check, each creature is temporarily immune for 1 minute. On a critical success, the target is frightened for 2. On a normal success, they're frightened 1. For Mimicry, this will work as a hidden ventriloquism act. For 60 minutes, you can change the tone, quality, and other aspects of your voice to even sound like someone else. Before a creature can attempt to disbelieve your illusion, must actively attempt a perception check or otherwise use actions to interact with the sounds. So this will be our way to imitate other people and try to lure them into a false sense of security. Let's review our beast. Should we even roll initiative for the Wendigo? The best part of this creature is that you can incorporate this spooky lore into your world, be it a byproduct of a curse, a terrible choice in the name of survival, or just a monster up on a hill. Either way, trying to figure out what this beast is and who it was and how to kill it should allow for more involvement from your players to get engrossed in the story you tell, in order to better understand their foes and how to survive until dawn. For a level 1 party, the focus is on stealth and outsmarting the monsters. At level 5, understanding weaknesses and perhaps even ending this curse. With a high speed, high resistance, and damage, this should lead to some very tense and terrifying encounters that can equally focus on sneaking out and away from these predators, or even some classic monster throwdown with low enough AC and senses to not make these counters impossible to participate in. So gather up some buddies, spend some quality time, and share some moments that you'll never forget and party like porn stars. Just remember to pack some extra food or you might end up craving something else.